Welcome to the Old School Legends Series presented by Del Frisco's. Tonight featuring the Old School Crimson Tide football series. We're pleased to have two of the all-time great Alabama players with us tonight to reminisce about their highlights and achievements in the legendary Crimson Tide program. Some other players and dignitaries will join us as well.
Well, I'm excited. Let's get the show started. I'll grab the guys and let's thank Del Frisco's.
Sounds great. While Audrey's grabbing Coach Sloan and Ruffin Parkhouse, I want to thank Del Frisco's Orlando for their sponsorship of the Old School Legends Series and hosting tonight's program. Del Frisco's is where you'll find generous servings of prime cuts of beef and cold water Australian lobster served in an atmosphere of old school elegance and sophistication, a result of the Christner family legacy of commitment to a fine dining experience for each and every customer. And also, before we are joined by Coach Sloan and Ruffin Parkhouse, we also will be joined later in our program by Dr. Norton Baker, a longtime booster of the Alabama Crimson Tide football program, who was recently inducted as an honorary member of the A Club, and we'll be hearing from Coach Baker later in our show. But for right now, let's welcome Coach Steve Sloan, star of the 1966 Orange Bowl, and Ruffin Parkhouse, defensive captain of the 1971 Crimson Tide. Guys, thanks for joining us on Talking Old School, the Old School Crimson Tide series from Del Frisco's.
Well, thank you, Roger. Thanks for putting this together and having us again. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Roger.
Can you share with us, as you've done before, back to that historic 1960, actually New Year's Day 1966 Orange Bowl win over Nebraska, where they were heavily favored, of course, had you guys outweighed 40, 50, 60 pounds a man, and where you came from behind to win the national championship, and you did that by throwing the ball. Probably more, and of course, Coach Bryant wasn't known for throwing the ball necessarily. You've shared with us before the conversation, if you will, that you had about the game plan before that game. Could you share that with us?
Okay, the day before the Orange Bowl in '66, we went on a boat ride. And of course, a lot of the guys had never been on a big boat, so we were on a pretty big boat. So we were looking around. And I was standing over there to the side, and Coach Bryant came over there, scared me to death. I about jumped in the water. And he said, I want you to throw the ball anywhere on the field on any down. We can't beat them by just running. We got to throw the ball a lot more than we normally do. I said, you mean backed up? We were not really allowed to throw the ball backed up. Oh, yeah, backed up anywhere. So we throw it anywhere. So, I got to think about that later. I said, I don't know what he's trying to bait me into doing something, but back then we called our own plays. So we get to the game, and we start out just passing the ball. We threw a tackle-eligible pass the first play of the game. Jerry Duncan is from Birmingham, that lives in Birmingham. He caught a little pass, got 17 yards. He was very fast. He was about 5'10", starting tackle, offensive tackle, 190 pounds, but he was very fast. So we began to throw the ball a lot, and we got ahead of them early in the game. And right before the half was over, Coach Bryant sent in a substitute lineman. And he came over to me, and he said, Coach Bryant told me to tell you don't have to throw it ever down.
With our upcoming team, Terry was a year behind me. That was his junior year, but he was really a fine athlete from Bogalusa, Louisiana. And very, very good athlete. A lot like Coach, and I mean that. He could really run. He could hand off, very slick with ball handler. And Coach Bryant, but he was not a drop-back passer. And he was a big reason. He was the best athlete we had as a quarterback, but he was not the best drop-back passer. But we had Johnny Musso, and we had John Hanna and Bearcat Brown. We really had a very good, potentially great offensive line and a stable of good running backs. Ellis Beck, good fullback, a kid that came in, a junior college transfer, Steve Bishelia, and Joe LeBou just had a stable, really. And so Coach Bryant, that was his, to me, very much part of his genius, was looking at what we had. He went, I'm interested in this wishbone. Went out there, came back that summer, and we didn't even run it in the spring. We implemented it in the summer camp before when we went into the 2-a-days practice, and Coach Bryant would pull those tarps around the practice field, and we'd go in there and run that wishbone. And things are a little different back then. Of course, the press, they didn't want to get on the wrong side of Coach Bryant. And so there was no, it was kept, very secretive, and we did not let it out. It didn't get out. In Southern Cal, we surprised them with it, and it definitely we jumped right out there with 17 points and then managed to hang on and win that game. And I'm convinced that game gave us so much momentum for us as seniors. We really believed then that we could beat anybody.
We had some great players, and Woody Lowe and Leroy Cook and Conley Duncan and all that. It was just Alan Pizzuto. Those guys were just so intense and so good. It was just people just couldn't score on us. And we were fortunate enough that our offense was able to move and have a very good, effective running game and passing game. And so it worked out great. I mean, I'll never forget the 73 team when Jimmy Taylor was playing VPI, and he ran 75 yards for a touchdown, and someone got called for illegal procedure, so they backed us up 5 yards, ran the same play with Jimmy, and he ran 80 yards for a touchdown. So it was that kind of year.
Dr. Baker, thank you for joining us tonight on the Old School Legend Series.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your recent induction into the A Club.
Thank you. That was a big surprise, and it's and these guys, of course, rigged it up, I'm sure, but it was quite an honor, and I've loved Alabama football as long as I can remember. Actually, I was a senior in medical school when Coach Bryant came, and of course that changed everybody's attitude about Alabama football at that time, and it was just fun to get started with it. And then when I moved down here, when I finished my training, I moved down to Orlando and started helping them recruit here. The first thing that the way I got involved really was because of Robin. Took some film up. Dick Pace, who was an official here, gave me a ride up to Tuscaloosa for a game, and I took the films of Robin, and I gave them to Coach Griska. Griska was he was there to recruit.
Our freshman coach.
Yeah, and that began, and I've been helping them recruit down here for a while, and it's been just wonderful by being involved and being as close to it as I have been, mainly through the players. And I knew Coach Bryant, and I played golf with him one time, maybe two. But he was, he was just an awesome individual, and he changed the world as far as Alabama football was concerned, and anybody from Alabama appreciates that.
I'd like to go back to Coach Steve Sloan and just ask us about one of the specific games you've talked to us about before on the show, and that's just talking about Coach Bryant, the kind of culture of toughness that he demanded. And, of course, he was the first one to say that he believed in tough, hard practices and that kind of toughness approach to football. The game you played against Mississippi State early in your career, can you share that with us?
64, I think Joe was out of this game, so I was trying to play quarterback, and we were playing in Starkville. And in the fourth quarter, I got knocked up under the bench. It was Mississippi State was always a hard-hitting team. I know Larry would remember that.
Yeah.
And I felt like I'd hurt my mouth, but I was bleeding, and I asked Coach Bryant for a timeout so I could recover. He said he had a way of saying a few words. He told me to get back in the game, and I said, well, Chuck, Coach, I feel like I hurt my mouth. He looked at my teeth, my front teeth, said, you've got a chipped tooth. That didn't sound too bad, so I went in and finished the game and took a shower after the game. I had a mirror in there, and my front 6 teeth were knocked out. So
It was the seventh tooth. It was the seventh tooth that was chipped.
Yeah, the seventh tooth was chipped. That's good. So I went over to him, and I uncharacteristically, I said, well, Coach, I got my teeth. He said, I'm going to buy you some new teeth Monday. You're going to get some new teeth. I said, well, that's fair enough.
Well, Coach Bryant saved my life. If it hadn't been for him, I'd probably be hauling paperwood up in North Alabama. So I owe a lot to Coach Bryant at the University of Alabama, and I love the University of Alabama. I think that some of the things that Coach Bryant taught us was character. Character really means a lot. You got to have pride and you got to have character, and I think those some of the things that I brought away from the program. He was a man's man, and he was tough, but he was fair.
He taught us so many lessons, and really there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not affected by what I learned from him and some of the lessons that I learned from him in dealing with whatever it is that I would have to deal with in the course of the day. Coach Bryant did have that measure of toughness that everybody knew and respected, and also you had that deep desire to please him, but he also the way that he would come through for people and helping people. And what Larry said about him saving his life, well, I can literally say that too, because I had gotten into some trouble not long after I'd played a year or so for Alabama, and Coach Bryant came by my side. He didn't need to. I really, at that time, the trouble I'd been in was serious, and it was only a poor reflection really on the university and Coach Bryant and the team, and I could never play another down for the University of Alabama. But Coach Bryant stuck by me and my family and helped me through that time in a almost immeasurable way.
I think he did teach a lot of life lessons, and he was aware of that, and they both testified to that personally. One of the lessons that he taught through the way he was and the way he structured practice and the way he motivated was that no matter what happens, you never give up. And I think he meant that for life, not just the game. The Alabama players, you rarely ever see them give up. That's not part of their deal. But in life, that's an important axiom. That's an important way to live, that no matter what happens, you don't ever give up.
Well, gentlemen, it's been great. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's been too short, but hopefully we can do it again sometime soon. Coach Steve Sloan, Robin Parkhouse, Larry Ruffin, thank you for joining us. I'd like to thank all those who've helped us tonight. Of course, Dave on sound, John on video, Audrey helping us, and of course, a special thanks to Del Frisco's Prime Steak and Lobster for their support of the Old School Legends series. That's going to do it for tonight. Thanks a lot.
Roll Tide.